Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive. This time, we're diving into Chapter 6 of Heart of a Samurai. It's called Disappointment, which is kind of a heavy title, but you'll see things get really interesting.
It always seems like the quiet chapters are the ones that pack the biggest punch.
So true. So we find Manjiro still thousands of miles from home on the whaling ship, clinging to hope. And then right away, Murakami hits us with this scene. Manjiro saving crumbs of food for a family he might never see again. Just heartbreaking.
It really drives home the depth of his longing for home, and then Jolly comes
That's
in
all you.
with his harsh words. You're dreaming if you think you're going home, he says.
Talk about crushing someone's spirit. How do you even respond to that, especially when you're already grappling with so much uncertainty?
And the way he goes on to describe Japan, making it sound like this barbaric land,
Hmm.
where they'll boil them alive, it really speaks to how fear and misinformation can shape our views of the unknown.
It's a good point. It reminds me of how sometimes the harshest criticisms can come from the people you're closest to. In this case, a fellow sailor.
Right. You would think he'd understand that deep longing for home.
Exactly. And it makes you wonder what impact these words have on Manjiro. How is this shaping his perception of the world outside of Japan? He's surrounded by these barbarians, as he called them, and now he has one of them basically confirming his worst fears.
And as if that wasn't enough, he gets summoned by Captain Whitfield.
Oh yeah, Captain Whitfield, shrouded in mystery, strange customs, unsettling mannerisms that stare.
It's like Manjiro can practically feel the weight of each step he takes towards the captain. And remember, everything about the captain, his clothing, his language, that pipe, it screams other to Manjiro.
Absolutely. And their interactions up to this point have been purely transactional orders, obedience, not exactly fertile ground for a heart-to-heart.
Right, and then comes the bombshell. I can't take you back to Japan.
Wow. Just like that.
Yeah.
His one hope dashed.
It's a pivotal moment, not just because he's being denied this dream of returning home, but because of the reason the captain gives.
Which is,
Well, the captain explains that Japan has this history of hostility towards foreigners.
he does mention the ship. What was it called, Morrison?
The Morrison, yeah. They tried to return some shipwrecked Japanese sailors, and they were attacked. It's a stark reminder of just how isolated Japan was at that time.
And how that isolation bred fear and mistrust of anything or anyone deemed foreign.
Exactly.
It really highlights the challenges of cross-cultural communication when fear and suspicion are the driving forces.
Absolutely. And you can't help but wonder how Manjiro is processing all of this. He's already grappling with this sense of displacement, and now he's being confronted with this stark reality of Japan's isolation.
It's a recipe for despair, right?
Yeah.
But then, and this is where Murakami really gets me, the captain does something totally unexpected.
It does, doesn't he?
He offers Manjiro tea.
Such a simple act, but so loaded with meaning in this context.
Right, this isn't just a captain offering a drink to a crew member. This is a man reaching across a massive cultural divide, a gesture of empathy, a moment of profound disappointment.
And I think that gesture opens a door for Manjiro to let his guard down a little. Because what does he do next? He shares his story, the story of his family back in Japan.
He does.
Yeah.
And he doesn't hold back. He pours his heart out about his father, his longing for home. It's raw and it's real.
And what's striking is that the captain, this man who Manjiro has every reason to fear or at least distrust, he leans in, he listens.
And then he reveals something of himself, something deeply personal. He talks about the loss of his wife.
The text really emphasizes the captain's grief, how he repeats no when talking about children as if the pain is still raw. It's a poignant detail that really humanizes him.
It does.
Yeah.
And I think it's this shared sense of loss, this understanding of what it means to yearn for someone who's gone, that creates a bridge between them.
Absolutely. In that moment, their differences fade away, and they're just two people united by grief, by a longing for connection.
And it doesn't end there. The captain then picks up his violin and plays this mournful tune.
This is where Manjiro's preconceived notions about these sailors start to crumble. He's witnessing a depth of emotion and appreciation for beauty that he wouldn't have thought possible.
Exactly. It challenges everything he thought he knew about barbarians.
Right. It's like he's realizing that even those we perceive as different can possess those same longings, those same sorrows. It's a powerful moment of human connection.
It is. And then the captain reaches for a book of poetry and reads aloud a passage about making the best of one's fate. It's like he's offering Manjiro a lifeline, a way to navigate his own difficult circumstances.
It's a message of resilience, a reminder that even in the face of disappointment, even when everything seems lost, There's still a choice to be made. You can either succumb to despair or find a way to keep moving forward.
And that brings us to the heart of this chapter. Because despite everything Manjiro's been through, the harsh words, the crushing news by the end, he's not utterly defeated. There's a shift in his demeanor.
It's subtle, but it's definitely there, like a seed of hope taking root in the midst of adversity.
It really makes you think about the power of human connection, especially in those moments when everything feels uncertain and you're surrounded by people you don't fully understand.
It's like the captain's vulnerability, his willingness to share his own grief. It creates a space for Manjiro to let go of his preconceived notions and see beyond those cultural barriers.
I mean, imagine if the captain had just delivered the news and that was it. What if he hadn't offered Manjiro that cup of tea, shared that piece of himself? Would Manjiro have been able to move past the disappointment?
It's an interesting question. We tend to focus on the grand gestures, but sometimes it's the small acts of kindness, those moments of shared humanity that have the most lasting impact.
And you can really see that impact in how Manjiro's perspective starts to shift. It's
Yeah.
almost ironic when you think about it. This chapter's called Disappointment.
Right.
And yet, by the end, there's this glimmer of hope, this sense that even in the face of adversity, something new is taking root.
Because that disappointment, it isn't just about the external circumstances, right? It's also about the internal shift that Manjiro undergoes. It's the disappointment of shattered expectations that paves the way for something else to emerge.
It's a good reminder that sometimes disappointment, even heartbreak, can be a catalyst for growth. It forces us to re-examine our place in the world, to open ourselves up to new possibilities. And as we leave Manjiro at this pivotal moment, standing on the edge of an uncertain future, it makes you wonder, how do we, like Manjiro, find our footing when everything familiar has been stripped away?
It's a question that continues to resonate, even today. In a world grappling with so much uncertainty, maybe the key is to remain open to those unexpected connections, those moments of shared humanity that remind us we're not so different after all.
Beautifully said. And on that note, we'll leave you to ponder those questions. This has been another deep dive. We'll see you next time.